I'm Matt Mervis, the director of the Skills 21 Project-Based Learning Program and AI Strategy at EdAdvance.
And I'm Liz Rade, the director of Research and Innovation at EdAdvance.
And this is ChatEDU, a podcast about AI in K-12 education. In today's episode, we'll dig into hidden gems, innovative AI uses in schools, including our own student-facing AI pilots.
But first, in the news, Matt will continue to dream about custom AI bots, but not from OpenAI in this case.
And Liz will share how Google's Bard is finally catching up with ChatGPT.
And Matt will inevitably return to talking about OpenAI and a new partnership with Common Sense Media.
And finally, Liz will highlight a study from my favorite new name for an AI chatbot called CS50 Duck from Harvard's popular CS50 open online course. And then we'll go beneath the surface as we unpack innovative AI use cases among students.
And we'll end with a new listener question and our pal HeyPI with ChatBack.
Dr. Rade, what's up?
Not much. How are you, Mr. Matt?
I am great. I love podcast recording day. It's actually really exciting. This is an audio-only podcast, but I noticed that you are wearing this beautifully colored shawl today.
Yes, that is a Liz Rade handmade special. It is a Stephen West mystery knit-along, so I didn't know what the end result was going to be. You know what colors you're knitting with, and then each week for 4 weeks, you get a clue and you knit and see what the end product is.
I always knew you were in the deep end of the pool on this fiber arts thing, but the water just got a whole bunch deeper, which is interesting. I wonder about knitting because it's such a great analog activity, and will AI actually intersect with your fiber arts world in some way?
So far it really hasn't. But what I think will be a way that it does, and I think will be really cool, is taking a pattern and showing Vision the colors that I'm thinking of using, and assigning them, the main color and the contrast 1 and contrast 2, and then having it generate the image of what I will knit if I follow the pattern with those colors. And so instead of knitting and getting halfway through and going, I really don't like this color combination, it may be able to help me there.
Yeah, Vision is such an interesting piece of this, right? We keep thinking of AI as this text in, text out, or maybe, make a cool picture. But right, I could imagine, you probably never run into errors where you're knitting along, all of a sudden something gets like twisted and torn apart and you don't know what to do or how you made that problem. But to be able to use something like, yes, ChatGPT or some other AI model that has Vision, take a picture of it and have it use its world knowledge to analyze that photo and figure out how to troubleshoot what do you call it? Is that like a knot, or what is that when you mess something up?
It's just called a mistake.
Oh, a mistake.
Normally the solution is what we knitters call frogging, which is when you rip out the rows. So rip it, like ribbit, ribbit. So it is called frogging when you undo your knitting.
And welcome to Knitting Today with AI.
So you haven't been in a suit in a couple of days. So I haven't seen a single suit in quite a while. So where have you been?
Yes, it is a suitless week. I have had clothes on, but it's been a suitless week. It's been
great. For that.
So, yeah, I've been off the road for a week, which is great. But next week, I'm back on the road, which I'm kind of psyched about. The one that's really catching my attention is next Friday, I'll be in a district where the humanities team is, quite appropriately really struggling with AI and their anxiety around student use of AI. I did a keynote for the district in the summer, and we talked about this whole idea of durable activities. So some activities in a world with AI will be more durable, and that the students can't use AI to do the activity for them. And some activities will be more vulnerable in that it's a type of activity that a chatbot can do for a student in seconds. And so they're going to bring their 5 favorite activities in and lessons, and we're going to use a couple different kind of tools to think about their relative vulnerability or durability. And then we're going to use AI to help make those activities more durable where they're, have some vulnerable characteristics. So should be really fun, hands-on in a nice way. This vulnerable, durable bit has been a very helpful and simple way, I think, for teachers to think about how to consider their lessons in a world of AI.
And teachers love to walk away from a PD with tools and with something that is instantly implementable in their classroom. So I love that you're actually taking assignments that they're doing. These aren't just hypotheticals. These aren't just you made up some assignments that they might give. When teachers can, learn something, use it right away, implement it into their classroom, have a new tool in their toolbox, it's such a great way to do professional development.
that's the plan, and I'll let you know.
All right, well, thanks for that, Matt. But let's now get to the news. So today, you promised me you would talk about custom GPTs without talking about ChatGPT.
So let's talk about what a custom bot is. So imagine any of these chatbots, Bard, ChatGPT, and you interact with it and it knows how to respond. But increasingly, we're going to see the opportunity to give it custom instructions, but this is going to happen lots of different places. So if I'm a science teacher, I'm doing a lesson on cell division, and I want the students to be self-directed and work on like their own self-directed hands-on project, rather than just going to Bard and typing in, help me understand cell division. When they interact with this teacher's prompt, it might have instructions like suggest activities or demonstrations that could help students better understand the concept of cell division. And this can give them ideas for hands-on activities that make it more engaging and memorable. And I think teachers will become more comfortable with these AI bots when they're able to provide custom instructions right down to the lesson, right? They're getting exactly what they want out of it and not imagining that it's going to just go write the cell mitosis or cell division essay for them. So yes, the exciting thing here is that a really interesting organization called Hugging Face, gotta love that name, right?
That's quite a name.
Yeah, so Hugging Face has come up with a system in order to build these custom bots on their own, and that's a great early sign, right? Because right now, if you're in the ChatGPT environment and you're building a custom GPT, you have to be in this paywalled ecosystem where you're paying your $20 to be able to do this. And to be able to begin to break out of that walled garden and start to see opportunities where teachers can use more open source tools to build their own custom bots, I think that's going to be really, really helpful. Now, I do have to say, so our own Cam Audia, who this is like my favorite custom bot of the day. So Cam Audia on our team has built this really great social media literacy curriculum called the Social Balance. And she built a custom GPT. We needed to crosswalk the social balance to all the important standards out there. So she put in ISTE standards, NGSS, CASEL for social emotional learning, Common Core. And so the bot was trained on all the standards, and then she fed a lot of information about the curriculum, and it just started helping her. I mean, obviously she has to stay involved, but it created this great crosswalk of skills relative to the curriculum.
So speaking of Cam, you mentioned that she used some of those prompting strategies that we talked about last week. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about that?
I would love to, Dr. Eddy. Yeah, so Cam was struggling, or maybe in this case, ChatGPT's custom bot that she built was struggling, and she wasn't getting kind of like some high leverage answers or high quality answers. So she started trying things that we talked about, like I'll give you $1,000 tip if you get this right. And then she moved on to my favorite, which is take a deep breath. So she would instruct the bot as she was asking it to do something like a standards crosswalk. She'd say, this is a lot of information. I understand. Take a deep breath and go step by step. It's all going to be okay. And she's texting me all morning going, oh my God, the results are so much better as I'm being emotionally sensitive and supportive to this bot.
I love it. And it's also counter to the idea of not having to say please and thank you. I'm curious if she threatened it.
She did not. She's like us. She is not, well, she's generally not a threatener.
Well, that's good, but I'm waiting for the perfect opportunity to threaten ChatGPT. I don't know if it'll ever come up for me.
I hope not. I think it would be a foolish decision. But all right, Liz, what's been catching your attention?
So you shared an article with me about the different AI tools and their popularity. And one of the things that's pretty interesting is Bard is definitely gaining on working its way towards the top. It is so Bard is from Google, but I believe today or tomorrow they are changing their name to Gemini.
Seriously?
Yes.
These names like Claude, ChatGPT, HeyPI, Bard, Llama, Lambda. And the funny thing on that is that I think that, so Bard was Lambda, then they became Bard, and now they're going to become Gemini.
What's really interesting, besides the name change, is that it's becoming so much better at giving answers. It's able to use images now. So as it's integrated into more of these Google tools that we are so used to using, and thinking about the impact Google has and the footprint Google has in schools, like BART is just going to keep getting stronger, and it's has the potential to really give ChatGPT a run for its money.
Yeah, I agree. It's a real horse race for sure. Absolutely.
You doing okay over there with 2 non-ChatGPT stories in a row?
Yeah, although they're really not non-ChatGPT, right? They're like this compared to that. So, but nonetheless, I am, but the streak is over. So we are going to talk for a second about OpenAI. So OpenAI has a new partnership with Common Sense Media, which is an organization, I think, in education that we've all really come to trust and love. They give reviews of apps and media and give a lot of guidance to parents and teachers on what's quality, what doesn't have lots of advertising, what's engaging for kids, what's interactive for parents and kids to work together. So Common Sense Media and OpenAI are coming up with family-friendly GPTs or ChatGPT apps that are going to be in the OpenAI store that have been, they like have the stamp of approval, which continues to lead our thinking that there's just another ecosystem coming, right? Just like the Apple Store or the Google Play Store, the ChatGPT ecosystem is going to be a place where you can use the model, but then you can also use all these other apps that Common Sense Media is suggesting to families. And what we don't see yet is the money part, right? But clearly it's coming. There'll be opportunities to pay for these custom GPTs and custom apps, and it will be interesting to see what that ecosystem looks like. So we've talked about the funny names, but now there's a new favorite that I know you have, and that is
Duck. So Duck is built into CS50, which is a open online course that you can take through Harvard, taught by David Malin. But I actually did some Googling as to why the name is Duck. So rubber ducking or rubber duck debugging is a process of talking to an inanimate object, talking to it through a coding problem. So that is why they named it Duck. So, but the more interesting thing besides its name is that it has been customized to be a supportive teaching fellow and to not give answers to problem sets. So this Duck is your sidekick to help you through the CS50 course, which is all about, it's the kind of intro to computer science coding. I took the course a few years ago. It was very, very difficult for someone who is not a coder, but to have the AI Duck by your side to help you work through some of these problem sets. I'm a great pseudo coder, so I can understand the logic between what I want the code to do, but actually translating it into code is very difficult for me. So to have the Duck by my side who could maybe help me go from my pseudocode to code would be really helpful. And I think a lot of students have found it helpful.
The Duck by my side. I like it. Are you going to go take the course again?
Absolutely not.
Okay. So this is almost like the custom GPT conversation before, but at a bigger level, right? There's a bot and it's trained on the entire course and it has a whole set of instructions on how to interact with students. Yeah, perfect example. Really, really interesting.
Let's get beneath the surface with our AI and education deep dive.
Yeah, in our first episode, Liz, you did such a nice job characterizing the equity issues around not having student-facing AI. So basically, students outside of school are using AI, but there's a real difference in who's using it and why they're using it and how they're using it. And so today, we're going to dig into this imperative, right? The idea that we need to start navigating the student data privacy concerns so that we can begin to use student-facing AI in the classroom so all students can learn to use AI ethically and productively. They can be prepared for this, like really what's emerging as a critical life skill, but deal with these widening equity gaps so that all students have access to these powerful tools.
Yeah, you shared a study with me from ACT. And one of the first things that is just so striking to me is that students with higher academic performance were significantly more likely to use AI tools than were students with lower academic performance. It doesn't say if they were using it in an ethical way or not, but just the fact that they know it's out there is an indication that there is a gap.
Certainly. So if half the students are using it right now for school and there's an equity issue around those who are using, we've got to level that playing field, right? I'm forever reminded the Harvard Business Review headline from last summer: AI won't replace humans, but humans who use AI will replace those who don't. And so that is our charge, right? If half the kids are using it in school and there's an equity issue, we need to make sure that all kids begin to use it in school in productive ways. And we, on our Skills 21 team, have been implementing now 10 pilots across the state of Connecticut where we are, so that students can begin to use AI in school in a safe and productive manner that aligns and has fidelity with our student data privacy regulations here in the state.
And now I get to talk about my absolute passion and favorite topic, personal interest projects. So a personal interest project is something that we really started building out during the pandemic, when adults were at home kind of figuring out what they were going to do with all this time and learning different skills. And we thought students should have the opportunity. So we built a curriculum of 12 activities that walk students through a project from coming up with their idea all the way to the end where they showcase this idea. And now we are doing PIPs in schools where the kids are doing these independent projects in anywhere from a few weeks to as long as a semester or even a year. And we have had so many different project ideas, and I could spend an hour listing them all, but I'll just give you a few. So we had a student learn to use a ham radio. We've had kids learn sign language or other languages. They've created art. They've created music, theater, dance performances, podcasts. We've had kids start small businesses. They've created games, both board games and online games. They've written books. They've invented and prototyped solutions to real-world problems. They've fixed things. They've built decks onto their houses. They've run camps and coaching sessions for kids. They've done tons of projects that have helped their community, from collecting things for food banks and shelters. And the sky has been the limit. They have done so many great projects, and every year they just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and creating new projects.
Yeah, you do seem enthusiastic about this topic.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's as if you wrote the PIP curriculum or something like that.
I just evangelize about it.
Yeah, so what was cool about PIP when we think about artificial intelligence is that for us it was the perfect place to start, right? So as a student is doing a capstone project, Genius Hour, a personal interest project, they're not writing the 5-paragraph essay. These are, going back to an earlier topic, these are highly durable in the face of AI, right? A chatbot is not going to do any of the things that Liz just listed, but it was our estimation that a chatbot might actually augment and enhance a student's work. And it's funny because months after we started this, Ethan Mollick of Wharton, I think we've shared, he has this great newsletter, One Useful Thing. He did a study with Harvard and the Boston Consulting Group and found that as consultants were doing creative tasks, analytical tasks, communication and marketing tasks, persuasiveness tasks, all the kinds of things that students do as they're doing one of these great independent projects, that AI was a wonderful complement. And so I guess we were just ahead of the curve, knowing that this was a really helpful place to drop AI in. And we're being really thoughtful about where's the cognitive load. If a student is doing an activity where they have to, analyze a couple different project ideas, we make sure that they do some of that pre-thinking before they engage with the AI. But it's been a super satisfying and fascinating place to begin doing some of the student-facing AI.
Through the 12 activities, we haven't built AI into all of them because we don't want to take the cognitive load off of them. But one of the neat ways is, with that pros and cons list, they narrow down to 2 or 3 project ideas, and they make their pros and cons list first, and then they go to Sidekick and ask it for some additional pros and cons. And we had a teacher that said the pro and con lists have just gotten so much more detailed, and the kids are really have more information to consider when choosing their projects. And I'm hoping that helps prevent some of the false starts, that kids start down a road and then realize that they've hit a major roadblock that could have possibly been predicted by AI. So that's, one way that kids are really using it, is to help with their pros and cons. And we've seen some really interesting examples of kids using this. So I was reading through some transcripts, and a young student was asking about the pros and cons for running a basketball clinic. Sidekick gave a bunch of pros and cons, and one of the cons was that it may be hard to keep students engaged, young students engaged. And her next question was, how can I keep students engaged in a basketball clinic? And then it gave more details, and I was like, yes, this is exactly what we want kids to be doing. Again, it's not running the clinic. She's got to do it. But it gave such good ideas. I was so excited.
Again, the enthusiasm is coming through, I have to say. Liz mentioned Sidekick. So Sidekick is the name of the chatbot that lives inside our personal interest project and capstone platforms. So let's say a little bit about the data privacy piece, right? Because the reason most schools right now are not doing student-facing AI is that a couple things. I mean, A, there's a lot of fear and anxiety. And on top of that, many states, including our own, have appropriately stringent laws about student use of AI. So here's how we address that. When students use our platform, they log on to a place called Launchpad that we manage. We have data privacy agreements with schools around their use of Launchpad. Sidekick is using the ChatGPT API, not to get too geeky here, but we've basically taken the power of ChatGPT, put it inside our platform, but kids don't log on to that system, which is an important data privacy consideration. Second, what students type into Sidekick doesn't go into the training data. So in Connecticut, if a student was interacting with ChatGPT in school, what they say there goes into the training data. But because of the way we've deployed it, it's just a special kind of technical consideration that we can make so that that data doesn't go into the training data, so it doesn't make ChatGPT smarter, essentially. And then third, and this goes beyond the data privacy piece, is just best practice. So each instance of Sidekick, there's a little video where the kids can learn and understand, as well as the teachers, what does literacy look like? So if I'm doing ideation and brainstorming, or I'm doing project selection, or really interestingly, if I'm doing the conversation that's sort of about learning more about the stuff, which is the investigate activity, the video helps students understand hallucinations and be guarded against the idea that some of the information they might get could be inaccurate and they have to check it. So there's videos. And then the one that's, I think, probably the most important is the teachers can see it, right? So every teacher can see every interaction that a student has with Sidekick, and they can give them feedback around that.
Yeah, that is my favorite part, because I've been reading the transcripts and just so interested in how kids are using it, and that slowly, many of them are becoming conversational with it, because I think one of the biggest barriers for kids is to understand that it is not a Google search, and that the conversation is a skill of using the AI in that way.
You mentioned you've been reading the transcript, so you approach this through a research lens as well. So I know this is partner research we're doing with the schools, but just what does that look like? What are you trying to understand as you unpack students' use here?
Yeah, I really want to understand where they're using it, how they're using it, what kind of information they're giving it, so that instance of the student going back and really, you could see that she took in the information of what the Sidekick said were going to be cons, and then she asked more questions, and that's what I want to see more of. We're seeing a lot of examples of kids just putting in there the things they like, and it gives them some project ideas, and they're not going beyond yet. And so that is a way that teachers can give feedback to students and say, well, why don't you ask it some follow-up questions? So I'm really looking for the interactions and the chats rather than just single instances of talking to the chatbot. One of the other things that we're doing is that we are pre and post surveying students to understand what they know about AI and what they think about AI before they use it in a project, and what they know and think about it after using a project, because we really want to see if they are understanding how it can be helpful and how they are using it. So it'll be interesting to see throughout this year, as students start wrapping up projects, how they are using it and whether or not they think it's useful.
Right. And we're talking to the teachers a bunch too. I mean, these are all pilots. These are all opportunities for us to learn and to research, and then hopefully scale some of these practices. And this is just the beginning. We will eventually see prompts and interactions and custom bots that get more sophisticated. We've already started training a couple of these with some custom instructions, but imagine when voice and video vision is there. We were working with a student that built a compost bin for her school. So imagine that she could turn to HeyPI and say, hey, I'm working on this compost bin and I want the materials to be sustainable, and have an audio conversation with the AI in the context of her project. Or she could take a picture of her compost bin in a particular state and upload it to Sidekick and say, I'm stuck here. Can you help me think through where to go next? Or here's my prototype. What are the next steps that I ought to be considering? So as we get multimodals, we have vision and voice, it will get all the more interesting.
Yeah, I just can't wait to see where these projects keep going and growing, and how the AI helps the kids elevate their projects even more.
One of the things that I think the whole school teaching and learning community is going to need to think through is the shame element. Dun, dun, dun. So students feel guilty when they use AI. We're going to play a clip in a second from an interview with a teacher and a student. This is one of the school districts where we're running a pilot, and we literally have 7 different instances where the teacher is enthusiastically talking about how kids are getting better at their questioning skills and getting value out of the student-facing AI. And then the student says, it's helpful, but I feel guilty. We've always been told, always in like the last 6 months, we've been told, don't use AI. And here I am using it at school. And so it's like, this won't be the first time that we've reacted in a strong way at the time which felt appropriate around technology, but we're going to need to dial that back and have kids and parents become more comfortable with its use.
It's actually gone more smoothly than I would have thought. And the responses that are being generated by the AI are really targeted and relevant to each and every one of their projects, as long as they're asking the questions. But that's part of it, because now they're asking better and better questions in order to get those better responses.
I think it's a little scary sometimes because it's like an AI, and I feel like we're always told not to do stuff with that in school and stuff. So, but it is helpful.
What's really cool is that the kids are learning all the different ways to use AI that are still ethical in school. So they are learning AI is not just a tool for cheating, and they're learning all the ways that they can use it. And we did actually just build Ethical Navigator into Sidekick, which also takes kids through some examples of when is it okay to use AI and when is it not an appropriate use. So that is something that I really pushed for, because we really want to make sure that these kids are learning that it's great as long as you're doing it ethically.
Yeah, it's been a fun piece to spend some time on. Certainly, you'll start to notice, school AI, Magic School. There'll be lots of people that will do student-facing AI. We're just a small regional nonprofit organization, but honestly, we felt pretty honored and privileged to have the skills and insight to bring student-facing AI into some of our schools so that we all can at least have a dialogue around best practice.
I imagine this was very similar to what happened when Google was first introduced.
Are you too young to remember that? Is that what you're saying?
No, well, I was out of college when Google really became popular.
Yeah, you're not too young.
All right, I think we've talked enough about ourselves and our own projects.
Me.
Right, but we are not the only ones. ISTE just had a great article this week about other ways that there are examples of student-facing AI in using it to boost creativity and use it in coding and art and so many different ways that it continues to grow literally every day into schools, and teachers are finding ways to help students use AI in a student-facing way that doesn't violate privacy.
I agree. That was in ISTE's blogs, and it's called Creators Meet Artificial Intelligence, and we will post it in the show notes. Whatever tool you use as a school, first, we hope you do, and then second, just to what degree are the prompts helping students build skills? Are the tools for teachers allowing teachers to see and provide reflection and feedback? Are there embedded literacy supports to help students really know anywhere, anytime how to use that chatbot? So, we just hope that we've been part of the conversation in a meaningful way. It has been fun.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's go to our final section. ChatBack. where we answer a question from a listener. And Liz, as this is our second episode, we actually have a listener and they actually submitted a question.
So exciting.
It is.
All right. So Michael Nelson from Norwalk High School asks, what strategies can educators employ to encourage students to think critically, even when utilizing AI-powered tools?
Michael, that is a great question. Thanks for submitting it. And it's interesting that we talked about personal interest projects and capstone today relative to AI, because in each of those examples, whether a student is using the AI for ideation or they're using it for that critical thinking activity where they give 3 projects they're working on and they're using Sidekick to think through the pros and cons, in all those cases, we've worked with teachers to make sure that students kind of move through the activity in an analog fashion or a digital fashion without AI before engaging the AI. And it has been really interesting. Both teachers and students have reflected on how in the first cut, they were doing that critical thinking, but the AI really helped expand the universe of ideas that they had to consider. I mean, ultimately, what we're seeing are better projects because students are able to model critical thinking or engage in critical thinking on their own, but then the AI is able to expand the field of view and they're getting better ideas. So let's say they're stuck on, here are my 3 ideas, but I want to talk to the AI about feasibility, or I only have a certain amount of time or budget. The AI is really helping them be effective critical thinkers, but at a greater level of depth.
I would also say that there's a lot of critical thinking in looking at the responses AI gives you, because we know that it hallucinates. We know that not everything it says is true. So you can't just take what AI says and go from there and, pass it off as fact. So there's a lot of critical thinking in looking at what AI has created and learning how to, detect what is real and what is not. So that is its own critical thinking skill, just by using the AI and analyzing the results.
We're going to all keep talking about this. And it's fun because we've gone from these more like high-level black or white questions, and now we're getting more nuanced and thinking about learning, which is great. AI in some ways is kind of reigniting great conversations about teaching and learning that may have been set aside for the last little bit. So we gave, I think, a highly cogent, thoughtful, and intelligent answer. Nonetheless, we're going to talk to our friend Pi here for a second, which we like to do in our ChatBack section, and see what HeyPI, that's HeyPI, the PI stands for Personal Intelligence. This is a model built by Mustafa Suleiman, who was one of the co-founders of DeepMind, and Reid Hoffman from LinkedIn. So let's see what Pi has to say about this. Hey Pi, what strategies can educators employ to encourage students to think critically even when utilizing AI-powered tools?
Encouraging critical thinking while using AI-powered tools in the classroom can be challenging, but here are some strategies that educators can use. Foster curiosity. Encourage students to question the information they receive from AI tools and to seek out multiple sources of information before drawing conclusions. Teach effective prompting. Show students how to craft effective prompts that lead to more in-depth responses and information from the AI. Emphasize evaluation. Teach students how to evaluate the information they receive, considering its accuracy, relevance, and reliability. Use AI as a tool. Encourage students to use AI to augment their learning, not replace it. For example, use AI to generate ideas or start conversations, but then delve deeper and discuss those ideas in class. Model critical thinking. Be transparent about your own thought processes and critical thinking strategies when using AI in class. This can help students see how to approach AI in a thoughtful and reflective way. By incorporating these strategies into your lessons, you can help students develop the skills they need to think critically and effectively in the age of AI.
That's interesting.
Yeah, we hit some of the good points.
Yeah, I think Liz Rade and Matt Mervis are on the same page with Pi. I am almost starting to think that the training data, right, that's a large language model, has a whole mess of data that it's trained on to be thoughtful, intelligent. I feel like it was trained on your brain, Dr. Rade.
Well, it's a big brain out there.
We won't reference my brain. It's not as big.
All right. Well, Matt, it was great chatting with you, as it always is. We talked about a lot of different exciting things in the news. We learned that emotional manipulation with AI is still a thing and can be very effective. And we took a deep dive into some student-facing AI projects we are working on. And then we wrapped up with a conversation with our friend HeyPI.
HeyPI. So, yes, we want to thank folks again so much for listening. We had multiple 5-star reviews on our first episode, most from Liz's family, but, we're hoping to grow that. So please mention, star, rate, review, smoke signals, carrier pigeons. Let the world know ChatEDU is a good place to hang out and spend 30 minutes. So thank you again for spending some time with us. In our upcoming episode, pod number 3, we're going to be talking about meeting the needs of all learners. We'll focus on differentiation, English language learners, and personalization, among other topics. And please, if you have a moment, send us an email at chatedu@edadvance.org. That's chatedu@edadvance.org. Let us know what's on your mind and send in a ChatBack question.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
ChatEDU is recorded at EdAdvance, the Regional Education Service Center in Litchfield, Connecticut. ChatEDU is produced and edited by Ahmed Malik, whose dedication and expertise bring our discussion to life.
Fact-checking is by ChatGPT, ensuring accuracy and reliability in our content. Nah, just kidding.
Additional support provided by Jonathan Costa and Abby Waldron. We are grateful for their invaluable contributions to the success of this podcast. And a heartfelt thank you to our listeners for joining us on this journey of exploring the innovative integration of AI in education.
See you next time.
Bye.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Jonathan Costa. I'm the Assistant Executive Director at EdAdvance. I want to thank you for listening to ChatEDU, our podcast that examines critical issues regarding the application of artificial intelligence in the pre-K to 12 learning space. New episodes will drop every 2 weeks throughout the rest of this school year. We appreciate your interest in ChatEDU.